right, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of Play, Pause, Rewind, the world's greatest media podcast, maybe. This is episode 2. Very exciting news. Niles, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing excellent. To be honest, I'm a bit hungover, but that's my own fault. So
hey, that's how Valentine's Day goes, you know.
Yes.
Just get fucked up and try and
when
find some
when
love,
Valentine's Day approaches and you're single, you drink. That's okay sometimes.
Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. This is it's morning for us. I don't know when you're listening to this, but thank you everyone. We're excited to get going on this, and this is the second episode of our podcast, Play, Pause, Rewind, and we are just two guys who love movies, love entertainment, love talking about it, and we just want to share our thoughts on some interesting things going on. We got some news stories that we're going to go through first here, and then we also got our main topic later, which is just going to be the Mandalorian. We're going to take a deep dive into that incredible show.
Season 2.
Star Wars universe. Season 2, yeah, Season 2 specifically. We're not going to really focus on Season 1. And just some other things probably too, hopefully there'll be some good jib-jab and whatever.
Definitely. And since I think I forgot to say it in the first episode, time codes for every topic are going to be in the description. Probably more relevant this week than it was last week because some of our news stories are kind of a buzzkill. Trigger warning for our final news story, we will be talking about sexual assault. So if you want to skip that, by all means do. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get going. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the news. So first story, in the theme of sadness, Christopher Plummer has sadly passed away at the age of 91. Everyone knows Christopher Plummer. He's had an acting career that spans 7 decades. He's in The Sound of Music. I know him most recently from Knives Out and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. He's in those. He's in so many movies. Like, he's a fantastic actor. Niles, do you have any thoughts on his passing other than it's just, really sad?
Yeah, it's difficult to put into words, but it's definitely one of those moments where the entertainment industry has lost one of the great ones. He's legendary. We just watched, my girlfriend and I, we just watched Sound of Music the other night, just because it had been on our minds for a while. We wanted to see him do his thing, and it's a 3-hour movie, so it's very long, of course. But aside from that, the film still holds up. It's still fun to watch, and Christopher Plummer's one of the better parts of that movie. He's such a solid actor all the way through, and it's very sad to see him go. And now that that's happened, I definitely need to go back through and start watching some of the other things that he's been in, just to get a better idea of who he was as an actor.
Yeah, he has such a long and diverse career. It's sad to see him go. There's not much else to say beyond that. One of Hollywood's greats, by all accounts that I could find, he seemed like he was a good dude too. Won Best Supporting Actor a while ago for actually one of my what might be one of my favorite movies, Beginners, with Ewan McGregor. It's a really, really beautiful film. Would recommend it. Maybe we'll talk about it more at some point later. But on a lighter note, though, Fox has ordered a new series, an animated series from Dan Harmon, one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty, about set in ancient Greece. I don't really know much else about it, but cool.
Yeah, right. I mean, Dan Harmon, he's such a creative genius. From Community to Rick and Morty. I
forgot he did Community.
Yeah, he's so smart, and he knows how to break the fourth wall. He knows how to do it in a good way. That doesn't really step on any toes or anything like that. He's very smart. He's clever. So I don't know. I guess I'm excited for this. I always like animated series. So
yeah, it's always good to have a good animated show to watch.
Yeah, and I like that idea of the ancient Greece. We don't see as much stuff, or at least I don't think that we've seen a lot of animated shows that take place in ancient times. So
especially not comedies.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It'll be usually something crazy like Gladiator or something really intense like that, or like Rome. So it's nice to see something that's going to be a little bit more lighthearted from ancient times.
That's true. Next story up, another brief story. We have some, I don't know if they were leaked or not, but some set pictures from Thor, Love and Thunder, Thor 4. And those pictures showcase, we see Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pratt, two of the 4 Hollywood Chris's. And Hemsworth is, he's again sporting his long Thor hair, and he's wearing a sleeveless red jacket. And apparently this is from the comic books in a storyline that I'm not familiar with, but a different person other than Donald Blake, which is Thor's Earth alter ego, takes up the Thor mantle, I think, and wears a jacket like that. We also see Chris Pratt's Star-Lord, Peter Quill. Looks like he's got a few gear upgrades on his coat or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there's not much of a story here. It's just we get some pictures from Thor, Love and Thunder, and that's always exciting.
Yeah, I was just trying to look at the photos right now and take a quick peek at how cool they look. My internet will load.
I'm excited to have that dynamic continue, though. I thought the scenes in Infinity War and Endgame between Quill and Thor were really funny.
Absolutely, yeah. They have such a good back and forth. I really like that, like the power struggle between the two.
Yeah, at the end when Quill's like, "This is still my ship," he's like, "Yes, of course, of course."
Yeah, don't worry. Like, it'll be nice to see them like kind of progress further with that. And,
totally.
I mean, just even looking at this, like I don't know if this is like an official poster or if it's just like a fan made poster for Thor: Love and Thunder.
Probably fan made at this point.
Yeah, it totally seems like it. But it'll be nice to see Valkyrie come back and
yes,
Peter Quill, of course, like all the Guardians that are still alive,
and Jane Foster too. I don't know if the other Guardians are in it. I think it might just be Quill, but we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, and Korg, I hope Korg comes back as always. Taika Waititi's always amazing.
I was thinking about this yesterday. This is going to be the first Thor movie that presumably doesn't have Loki in it. So it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how much of a void the lack of Loki has. I mean, we have plenty of characters. We have Jane Foster coming back as Thor and Valkyrie and Quill and all these people, but it's like shit. He's always been there, and now he's very dead. I mean, I know he's getting his own show, but it's not the Loki we know. So we'll see.
Well,
I guess they may.
Yeah, and I mean, you never know. Maybe there could, just because of the multiverse and because of the show and the fact that we're going off of that whole timeline where he escaped after the first Avengers. There's definitely still some possibility that they could run into him.
That would be cool.
Avengers,
that could really fuck with Thor a lot too.
Oh yeah, and he's just a totally different Loki too. So like he doesn't remember all the stuff that happened between each other and all the character development. He's going to be a totally different kind of Loki, 100%. Which could be a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, maybe like Thor initially wants to trust him or something, and it backfires because like that's not our Loki anymore.
Yeah,
he doesn't.
It could totally be something like that. I can see that.
All right, next up, this is kind of exciting. This was announced this week. HBO's adaptation of The Last of Us video games has some pretty huge casting announcements. They've cast their Joel and Ellie. Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian, Oberyn Martell from Game of Thrones, is going to be Joel. And Bella Ramsey, who was little Lyanna Mormont, also in Game of Thrones, is Ellie. So looks like they're keeping it in the family, getting some HBO Game of Thrones alums in there, and not exactly like one-to-one appearance-wise casting, but I think both fantastic picks.
Yeah, I would agree. It's nice to see Pedro Pascal taking on another father figure role and expanding that universe of his own, all those different father figure roles that he has. But I'm kind of excited for this. I still need to play through the games, just because they were PS4 exclusive, so I just didn't have the game. But I did want to play them, and they look beautiful. The only thing that I've heard negative wise about this is that they don't necessarily look a lot like the character models in the game, but I don't really think that's a huge deal What about you?
Yeah, I don't really think it is either. And that's part of adaptation too. Like sometimes people are going to look different, and they may. I think it's a safe assumption that they're more or less going to adapt the games one-to-one story-wise. I think in terms of games being adapted into films or TVs, the Last of Us series is probably one of the easier ones to do because it is so filmic in its storyline. But
Filmic.
yeah, but it's like, because, a lot of games rely heavily on the gameplay to tell their story because that's the strength of the medium. Last of Us, from my understanding at least, has a very powerful narrative without the gameplay. And I've also heard that's kind of to the detriment of the game because the gameplay is not as integral to the story as it maybe should be for a game story, but that's beside the point. And I haven't played The Last of Us either. I don't have a PlayStation. I'm pretty familiar with the storyline of both games, but I'm excited to see this translated, and I really hope that they do a good job because video game adaptations are really tough to crack in film. And I think TV is a better medium for adapting games than film is, but we'll see. Pedro Pascal is an awesome actor. Bella Ramsey, I've only seen her in Game of Thrones, but she was great in that role, and I could see her being a good Ellie. So.
Oh yeah, like she's got. She definitely kind of seems like a child. You know, and that's kind of like what Ellie needs to seem like as a child. So,
yeah.
Even in Game of Thrones, she was playing like, what was it, like a 12-year-old?
I think she was like 10, 10 or 12.
Yeah, super young.
She was a little badass. Like,
yeah,
Ellie does have that badass edge that you need to have too, especially in the second game. But she is a kid, especially at the beginning of the story. She's a very, for the world she lives in, she's a pretty innocent kid. And by I'm assuming Last of Us 2 is the end of the story based on where that game ends, but by the end of it, she's a pretty hardened, cold-blooded badass. So,
yeah, I remember reading the synopsis and kind of watching how it ends and stuff.
We'll see. I'm excited for this show. I think has potential to be really good, and the writers of the games are involved as well in some capacity. So we'll see. I'd really like more video game adaptations to crack into the mainstream of film and TV because there's so many great stories and games that just haven't been translated properly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Me too. This is a good start, and hopefully they can set a good standard for other video games going forward.
Yep. So next up, and I only included this because I think it's really fucking funny. Basically, Donald Trump got wind that the SAG AFTRA union was going to kick him out. So he jumped the gun. He's like, "You can't kick me out. I quit," and wrote them a very strongly worded letter about him quitting. And then in response, SAG AFTRA was like, "You're banned from ever re-entering this union."
Damn.
It's like small victories. I'd much rather have gotten him convicted in the Senate yesterday, but I'll take this as at least it's something. Someone's doing their job properly. Thank you, SAG, for doing what the Senate couldn't.
Man, I just wonder what that letter was like. I bet it.
Oh, you should read it. I was gonna pull it up and do my best Donald Trump impression, but I forgot. So sorry, guys, you'll miss this.
I was gonna ask if it had complete sentences or not, but I don't know. I guess I'll look it up later.
It did. Someone probably wrote it for him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he can't write it himself.
No, he doesn't know how to write. Next up, in the theme of just weird shit, our actor Armie Hammer, and there's a whole lot more to this story, but he's been dropped from his talent agency because of the possibility that he's a cannibal. Yeah.
Whoa.
And those allegations have been floating around for a little while. Like, ex-girlfriends have come out and said that he wanted to, like, bite them or quote-unquote barbecue them, and that's what turned him on. So, yeah, apparently Armie Hammer it likes to eat people.
Well, if that's what gets you up in the morning, that's none of my business. But, yeah, that is a little disturbing. I haven't heard of many cannibal fetishes before, with the exception of Hannibal. But
but he's fake,
Yeah, he's a fiction character. This is a real person who's walking around in the world.
Yeah, like, I guess if you can find a consenting partner who's cool with you eating bits of them, that's great. But I don't think there are many of those who would do that.
I mean, yeah, that's
I wouldn't be surprised if Armie Hammer's career slows down a bit.
Yeah, it slows down real hard until people forget about this.
I don't think he's going to get much work anymore.
Yeah, like, I mean, he could probably still get some supporting roles or something like that, but I don't think he's going to be a lead man.
No. Soon. Sucks. I guess we're never going to get Man from U.N.C.L.E. 2. I liked that movie.
Man, I'll probably need to rewatch that because I don't think I remember that movie very well.
It's not like widely loved. I don't think. I think people are fine with it, but I remember it being a fun spy romp. Henry Cavill, Armie Hammer, Alicia Vikander's in there, and Hugh Grant is like their handler.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Cool. Next up, we've got big news actually relating to our main story too. Gina Carano, Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, has been fired or released from Lucasfilm. This comes after months of just transphobic comments coming from her, also anti-vaxxer comments, pro-Trump comments, and it all culminated in her making an Instagram post that compared people criticizing her to German citizens being complicit in the Holocaust. So at that point, Lucasfilm was like, okay, you're done. So, yeah.
This is... I'm really disappointed in her, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
I really like her. I really like her character in The Mandalorian. She's so strong and she's so unique. And, like, you know, we haven't really seen a character like that in the Star Wars universe before. Like, all the females have been, like, you know, like politicians or
Force users. Like,
Force users.
Yeah, she's a female soldier, and that is unique. Yeah. And she's a Alderaan. She's from Alderaan.
Yeah, that was an interesting point too.
And it is a shame that she's really done this. And the sad part is, one, Pedro Pascal, his younger sister is trans. He's a big trans rights person. And by all accounts, when this all started a little while back, and she was kind of like mocking people for having pronouns in their Twitter bios. And for those of you who don't know, it started with trans people doing it, but like putting their pronouns in their bio. So if you engage with them on the platform, you can gender them appropriately. And then it has expanded beyond that to non-trans people also do it to normalize the practice. Like, I have pronouns in my bio. It's fine. It's a totally normal thing to do. And she was kind of making fun of it. And then people were like, hey, that's not cool. This is why people do this. And then she's like, oh, I talked to Pedro about it, and he explained why people do this kind of thing, and I get it now. And then a couple days after that, she put pronouns in her bio, but she put beep, boop, bop, and then proceeded to, like, just mock trans people and then retweet and like a bunch of MAGA, like, red hat wearing anti-vaxxer, anti-masker bullshit. And it's like, just fucking stop.
Yeah, no, that's totally uncalled for. And
it's totally ridiculous. And
I certainly don't consider myself to be like an expert in trans rights.
No, and me either.
Like anytime that we watch RuPaul's Drag Race and there's like a trans queen on the show, I have to kind of turn to my girlfriend and be like, wait, can you explain this to me a little bit? Like, I'm not entirely clear with the details. You know, but that's part of the learning process. And, you know, everyone's going to eventually get to a point, hopefully, where trans people are more, accepted in society and people understand it a little bit more. So it's a shame to see that kind of language being used by such a, influential voice or,
totally.
And big TV show. Yeah.
And I think you're totally right. It's all part of the learning process. Like, until I met you, honestly, I didn't really even know anything about transgender or non-binary people, and I was completely ignorant to that, and I had to learn. Everybody has to learn. Like, people will be patient with you while you're learning, But if you were given the opportunity to learn and then you reject it and you double down on your bad behavior, yeah, you're going to get called out and you might lose your job. This isn't cancel culture. This is a company deciding that they don't want to be associated with the statements of one of their employees, so they fired them. This is not new. This is not outrageous in any sense. This is fucking normal. Anyone who's like crying cancel culture about this is just fucking lying. And of course, I didn't put this in the notes, but you may not be surprised to learn that within 2 days of her firing from The Mandalorian, she was hired by Ben Shapiro to star in one of the Daily Wire's new films. It's like, so all the predictable people are rushing to her defense. You fucked up. And you almost certainly were told multiple times, you've got to stop doing this or we're going to let you go. And she kept doing it. It's 100% on her.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess there is like a debate about, or I guess you could make an argument in this case about like free speech and like, all that stuff. Like, yes, you have the right to like put your voice and your opinions out there into the world. You can tweet whatever you want. You can post whatever you want. That's up to you. But yeah, when you are working for one of the largest companies in the world, and you're representing them on like a international level,
exactly.
This is unacceptable, and I can't imagine how many people are fans of Disney that are actually, trans people.
Exactly.
There's got to be so many. Like, I have no idea how many there could be.
Yeah, and it's good to see Lucasfilm and Disney like actually intervening on something like this because, I mean, just look at the fucking past. You have Kelly Marie Tran bullied relentlessly, Daisy Ridley bullied relentlessly, John Boyega. Before that, Jake Lloyd, little Anakin Skywalker, like Ahmed Best almost jumped off a fucking bridge because of the hate mail he got from Star Wars fans. Like, it's good that Lucasfilm is finally drawing a line in the fucking sand, and all these like anti-trans people like, I'm canceling my Disney Plus. Good, fucking good. We do not want you. No one wants you here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like Disney has a lot of shady shit on their hands and will continue to going forward. They're one of the largest companies in the world. They're probably the largest market force in entertainment, which is bad. But and as cynical as it may be, a giant mega corporation saying like, we will not employ people who vocally oppose trans rights is good. That is a good thing, even though they're doing it for business purposes. Disney does not give a fuck about anybody if it doesn't make them money. I think we all understand that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I was just thinking, this just kind of popped in my head that, the whole story about the Force too is kind of like, it's the story of change within you, Rey's awakening and realizing there's always been this Force inside of me that's like, always been there, and now I'm just kind of becoming aware of it. And you can say the same thing about Luke or like the rest of the Jedi and stuff like that, which can be, to a certain extent, a trans metaphor, because people who are trans have always been, kind of.
And it can just be like whatever it is awakening within you, the viewer, can apply to. There's a statement Mark Hamill made. I think he was talking at Oxford just about something, and someone asked him, is Luke Skywalker gay? And Luke's sexuality is almost never touched upon in the films at all, but his response was like, that we never really defined it in the movies, and if it's powerful and meaningful to you that Luke is gay, of course he is. And if that's not, then he's not. Like, it doesn't matter. It's never said in the films what Luke's sexuality, and I know sexuality and gender are different things, but it's about representation. And the part of the power of Luke's sexuality not being defined is that you as the viewer can define it for yourself, and it can mean whatever you need it to mean when you're growing up. And I think that's really great. And just in summary, like, fuck Gina Carano. I'm glad she's gone. I think they'll manage. Either Cara Dune can be written off, which I would not prefer, or she can be recast. And I'll talk about it when we talk about The Mandalorian shortly, but and this may just be because I became aware she was a transphobe around this time, but I did not think her acting in season 2 was good at all. I thought she was really bad.
It was fine. She's not she's not really an actor. She's just kind of there for muscle. That's kind of what I've always kind of thought of her as.
But it all comes back to, like, Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian, has a sibling who is trans. His co-star starts tweeting and saying anti-trans bullshit. She's gonna get fired, man.
Oh, absolutely.
She's not the title character. The Mandalorian is. And if the Mandalorian has a trans sister, your transphobic employee is gonna go. And
somehow Cara Dune died.
You saw that picture of Poe, like somehow Palpatine. It's like somehow Cara Dune fucking died.
Yeah, right. Perfect way to write her out.
I love that scene so much because it's like, I don't think Oscar Isaac is acting in it. I think he's genuinely irritated that the writers of Episode 9 are like, Palpatine's back.
Like we couldn't figure out how to do it. Let's just one line. That's all we need.
We didn't have faith in the villain that we created. We're gonna bring back the old one. We got to talk about Episode 9 at some point. But
story for another time.
It can be a main story. Maybe we'll do each Star Wars trilogy as like a topic at some point. That could be fun.
That sounds great. Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Can we move on to the next thing?
Yes, next thing. And again, trigger warning for this story. Sexual assault is the topic of it. Please feel free to skip this if you want to. But actress Evan Rachel Wood, you may know her from Westworld. She's Dolores. She has accused her former boyfriend, Marilyn Manson, of just abuse, racism, Nazi obsession, and also made a statement that Manson's wife threatened to release underage photos of Wood to the public to try to ruin her career and silence her. She filed a police report on this in December, and apparently Manson... or Wood met Manson when she was a teenager, and he groomed her and just abused her and just did horrible fucking things. Like, here's some excerpts from her quotes. Like, she says, Brian Warner, who is Marilyn Manson, started grooming me when I was a teenager and horrifically abused me for years. I was brainwashed and manipulated into submission. I am done living in fear of retaliation, slander, or blackmail. I am here to expose this dangerous man and call out the many industries that have enabled him before he ruins any more lives. I stand with the many victims who will no longer be silent. Fuck, man.
Yeah, that's heavy. I mean, I applaud her. I applaud her for, coming forward and, owning up to this and opening up about it and, bringing this to our attention because, I feel like Marilyn Manson's always been kind of a little bit problematic of a public figure, I'd say. Like, at least that's what I remember growing up. I remember enjoying some of his music, not a lot of his music, like, during my, metal emo streak in middle school and high school, you can feel the pain in his music, but, that's not an excuse for any of the things that he's being accused for here. And this is, just upsetting and, gosh.
And it just always, like, as the Me Too movement has done since it started, it brings into focus, like, we love this industry, this movie, music, like, entertainment industry, but there is a dark side to it, and a lot of people abuse their power to fuck with people and abuse them, and abuse their power to abuse people. Not the same story, but Joss Whedon this week had more people come out against him. And it's like, we have to acknowledge that while we love the work of a lot of these people, when they do something wrong, they're the same as everyone else. They did something wrong and need to be called out. Same with Gina Carano. Same with anybody else. It's like, what we talked about with Ray Fisher 2 weeks ago, where he said accountability over entertainment. Like, it goes... We have a responsibility as audience members to understand what the people we're fans of do and believe, I think. And we can't control them, but we can vote with our wallet. And we can do our best to hold them accountable and call for their firing and work to create a better world where victims of abuse are more comfortable coming forward when it happens, so we can
Absolutely.
prosecute the perpetrators with by law.
Yeah, and even I feel this has just been such a rampant problem in Hollywood. Just like you were just saying, um, it's just everywhere. From late night television to big time movies. And,
I mean Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah,
he was a huge force in Hollywood.
It's just so prevalent. It's just it just seeps into every facet of the entertainment industry. So yeah, it's very unfortunate that that's been the way that it's been for so long. So it's nice to see that Rachel Wood's coming forward and she's talking about these things and she's trying to be open about it. And yeah, we are trying to hold these people accountable for their actions. Yeah,
and the more people like this that get exposed, the better the industry will become. It's not a witch hunt. It's accountability. These
Absolutely.
Marilyn Manson did wrong. Harvey Weinstein did wrong. Kevin Spacey did wrong. These are bad men, and they need to be held accountable. And it's not just men. It's disproportionately men. But anyone in a position of power who is abusing that power needs to be brought to justice. And we as a society have not done that. We're starting to, but don't complain about this, people.
Yeah.
This is...
There's no reason to complain about this.
Yeah.
Marilyn Manson's got to go through the process. If it comes out the other end with no jail time, no fines or anything like that, he's not found guilty, then good for him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, and I don't recall if she was pressing charges or anything. I think she was just coming forward. So that he is exposed and people know.
Okay.
But in a better world, she would have been able to come forward when this was happening to her, and then he would have been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But that's the world we're trying to build. It's not the one we live in now, unfortunately.
We're getting there slowly. It'll just take a long time.
Yeah.
It's one of the first of many steps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder if Ben Shapiro is going to hire him, too.
I would have been too far past him.
Yeah, no, Ben Shapiro sucks.
You can tell we have some strong opinions about.
Yeah, the best thing Ben Shapiro has ever done is unwittingly admit to the internet that he's unable to sexually satisfy his wife. That was the best thing he's ever done. And he had no idea. He didn't know.
Just admitted to it. Oh well.
Yeah. Well, if you're still with us, thank you for bearing through all of that. I understand those are tough topics. Let's get into the main story, The Mandalorian.
Yeah, let's
some fun.
Let's dive into the meat of this. I love The Mandalorian.
Oh, we're doing so much better on time too. Our news segment only lasted half an hour today instead of an hour.
Woo!
Woo! We're getting better.
It's like a second podcast, so we're gonna keep trying to get a little bit better each week and make the episodes a little bit more better. So we appreciate everyone listening in if they are.
100%.
Hopefully, you agree with us on some points about The Mandalorian here, and hopefully, we can bring some new things to your attention, possibly, or just have some good conversation about it. Get good ideas in there.
And even if you disagree with us, it's rare on the internet, but that's cool. You don't have to think the same things we do. Especially in the Star Wars fandom, it seems to be people think their opinion is the only one that matters, and if you disagree with them, you're stupid. That's not true. That's not how media criticism works. This is art. This isn't mathematics. There isn't a right answer.
If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Exactly, and it's all subjective. But let's and just a reminder, time codes are in the description. We're going to start with no spoilers for a bit, and then we'll go into full spoilers. So if you want to skip the spoiler bit, feel free to do so. We'll talk about more stuff afterward. But non-spoilers, Season 2 of The Mandalorian. We are a bit late, but whatever. We didn't have a show when it was on. Niles, what did you think of Season 2?
Oh, man, I loved this show. Even from the first season, the pilot episode, I've been drawn into this show. This is, I think one of the peak Star Wars moments, or at least peak moments in Star Wars history. You can say you can have opinions about the prequels, you can have opinions about the sequels, all that stuff, even the OT. But I think this is exactly what I've been waiting for a long time for Star Wars content. You know, it's something different. It's something that's so unique, but it's also still able to tell a very unique Star Wars story. You know, it's not just like, here's the Force, here's the Jedi. It's like, no, let's explore something a little bit different. Let's expand that into, you know,
it's
the scummy underbelly of the universe.
Exactly. It's like, and that element has always been in Star Wars, but it's more been on the periphery. It's like we get glimpses into it with Han Solo, but this is, and Boba Fett too. I guess Boba Fett's around doing things. But we the Mandalorian. It's like we're gonna the Force and the Jedi and all that shit exist in the show. Obviously, it's the same universe as the movies, but it highlights a different part of Star Wars, which is fun, and I think it does the TV format a lot of justice too. Like, it explores Star Wars as a TV show would. A lot of people seem to think there's filler in The Mandalorian. I don't, honestly. I think there's standalone episodes. That's TV, guys. That's how the medium works. It's like the main character is sometimes going to be on the serialized story. Sometimes it's Monster of the Week. That's X-Files. That's Arrow. It's Supernatural. Like, it's Law and Order. It's any TV show. Like, they always have standalone episodes, and that's okay. Just because Netflix doesn't do it doesn't mean it's not valid for the medium.
Yeah, I'll agree with you 100%. Even those filler episodes are like kind of the Monster of the Week ones. Even though there weren't really many episodes like that, they were still very interesting, and you know, they had me interested from like the first frame to the final frame of the episode.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, one other thing that I'd like to say, you know, is that, you know, at this point, I feel like so many people say the same thing, that, you know, they grew up with Star Wars. Star Wars is like such an integral part of like their culture and their upbringing, and I totally agree with that, and I feel the same way, and I'm sure that you do as well, Phil. Like, Star Wars is kind of part of my identity, I feel like. So, you know, when I was growing up, I always did wonder what happened after, you know, they blew up the second Death Star. What happens in the universe after that? What's, you know, and I never really got into the books or anything like that, you know, the expanded universe, all that stuff.
Same.
So, you know, it's nice to see something that's finally exploring that time period after, the Empire is destroyed. What happens next?
Right. You know? And I'm really enjoying that this era is getting filled in, because I do really love the sequels for the most part. I'm not a fan of 9, but 7 and 8 I really love. But how, like, one of the flaws, I think, for The Force Awakens is it just kind of starts and doesn't explain the Empire has been gone. They did win, and things were good for a while. So an audience member who just watches the movies and just goes into Force Awakens blind, it's like, what the fuck did they won? Why is the First Order just the same as the Empire?
Where these bad guys come from? Like,
and it's like, it could have been very easily fixed in that movie if they had just had like an extra line in the title crawl, but that's beside the point. But seeing the world in the era of the New Republic is kind of cool, and seeing it from the perspective of someone who is an outlaw like the Mandalorian is interesting. Like, he would have been dodging the Empire previously, and now he's dodging the New Republic. It's just another authority to him and to the characters of this show, which is neat. And with the Cara Dune character being a rebellion veteran, it's a neat element, you know? Like, she fought in the rebellion, and then society doesn't really have a place for her anymore after the war. That's like a lot of soldiers feel that, I think, after coming from a war. So
absolutely, yeah, and I think you're definitely hitting on a good point there, because you know, you look at the OG trilogy, you look at the prequels, you look at the sequels. Who do they really focus on? And it's like the heroes. You focus on the Jedi, you focus on the big baddies, you focus on like Princess Leia, you focus on like those core
on the galactic scale conflict.
Yeah, it's like you're like basically like bringing this whole huge thing and summarizing it down to just like 3 people, you know, like Anakin and Obi-Wan and Padme. You know, it's like those movies focus so much on just like these few characters that are like have the Force and like have all this influence and power, that we never get to see like civilians. We never get to see like the little guy. You know, we never get to see someone like the Mandalorian, like Cara Dune, like you know, those other bounty hunters, those other people that are just trying to get by and survive and make a better life for themselves.
Yeah. Red Letter Media made that point in one of their prequel reviews like a long time ago where he was like, I think he had in the background like all the ships on Coruscant, and he's like, if you're a regular working person, like the rise and fall of the Empire probably didn't even affect your life. And he like pointed a ship in the background, it's like average Joe, late for work.
I gotta give him more something to get my ass chewed out.
Yeah, and it's like you do need to show the human element of it a little bit. And I think the original trilogy does it pretty well by blowing up Alderaan. Like that establishes the personal stakes pretty decently because Leia is from Alderaan. The sequels, when they blow up Hosnian Prime and the other systems, it's like there's a reason no one gives a shit when that happens because we don't know anyone who's from those planets. It's like, like that sucks. Millions of people just got vaporized, but I felt nothing about it.
This universe is used to genocide on a galactic scale.
Yeah, Star Killer Base in general is the weakest element of that movie. But
absolutely.
But you want to do Mandalorian spoilers now, so we can just dive in?
Yeah, let's just get into it. You know, I think that's a good overview. So now, from here on out, we're spoilers. So
spoilers in 3, 2, 1, boom. Okay.
Palpatine's behind it all.
Palpatine's behind it all. Somehow, Palpatine returned.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it does seem like I am enjoying in season 2. We get a lot more of it. That there are efforts in motion by the remainder of the Empire to like rebuild themselves. I think that's super cool, and that was an initial pitch when they were developing the story for the sequels. It's like they're like, what if after World War II the Nazi leadership all went to Argentina and instead of just hiding they regrouped and came back as something different? And that was the concept behind the First Order. It's like, what if the fascists got away and they rebuilt in unknown space? And like, okay, that's an interesting pitch.
I agree.
And we get to see the seeds of that with Moff Gideon and what he's trying to do. I kind of hope The Mandalorian isn't tying itself too heavily in with the sequels because I don't want them to be using Grogu to try to resurrect Palpatine just because I hate that plot element so much.
Well, you know, it might not even be for Palpatine, you know. It could just be, you know, like they're collecting Grogu's genetic material, you know, his blood or whatever, to create the Snoke clones, like. You know,
I hate the Snoke clones too, though.
Yeah, I know. It's not good to any side of it. Like I don't really enjoy
Snoke
that.
was fine. He was just Snoke. Leave him alone.
But you know, I do like to see, you know, them you know, using the actual technology that exists in the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, like, that's a good point. We're seeing what Star Wars tech can do because we don't really get a lot of that.
Yeah, sometimes it's like you know, they'll introduce like, you know, this really interesting technology like the cloning tech or like you know, the thing that can track ships through hyperspace, like these really innovative pieces of tech, and then they're just kind of never used again.
Totally.
You know,
yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh, we're like this really advanced society that like, you know, we can fly like extreme amounts of distance, you know, go light speed. We have like medicine that can restore you from like the dead and like
unless you're Padme.
Yeah, unless you're Padme, unless sadly it's you.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it's nice to see them, you know, circling back on something from the past and integrating that again and saying, hey, let's use some cloning tech. Let's get that back into the story and you know, kind of have that sinister tone to it.
Yeah.
As well.
I really Pedro Pascal and whoever is under the helmet doing the physical acting for Mandalorian. For Din Djarin is the character. I call him Mando. I'm sorry, but the amount of emotion we get from this essentially faceless character is great. And I saw a tweet yesterday. I was like, the core relationship of the Mandalorian is between a faceless person using body language and a puppet, and we're all ride or die for it. And it's like, yeah, man.
Absolutely we are.
The Baby Yoda puppet is so great. It's amazing.
It's phenomenal. I could watch that thing like all day. Like I save random things that I find on Instagram like all the time.
Yeah.
Like half of them are like Mandalorian related, like just like, weird ass little things with Baby Yoda. Like that. Did you see that like set video of like the guy playing the guitar?
Yes.
Baby
Yeah.
Yoda?
Oh, that was Robert Rodriguez. He directed that episode. He's the director of Sin City and El Mariachi, the Desperado trilogy of movies, and also Spy Kids.
Oh, okay. That's
his filmography is like violent R-rated movies and Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl and stuff.
The best films of our time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I
legitimately have a Baby Yoda calendar right there off.
Really?
Yes, it was a Christmas. It was a stocking stuffer.
And you'll have to include a photo of that.
Yeah, I'll share it on the podcast,
figure out how to
Instagram or something. Yeah, I love their relationship so much. I think it's so pure. And that's what got me interested in the show, actually, was the relationship between Mando and Grogu. Because when the trailer for season 1 came out, I was like rolling my eyes because it felt so cliche to me. It's like, and I mean, I like the lone gunslinger archetype. But in the trailer, he's in a room with a bunch of stormtroopers, and they're like, "There are 6 of us and 1 of you." It's like, I like those odds. I'm like, God fucking damn. We've seen this so many times.
Yeah.
And watching the first episode, I liked it. It was cool. But as soon as he opened up that little crib and Baby Yoda was there, I'm like, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very intrigued because, one, we've never seen that creature outside of Yoda, and in episode 1, Yaddle, who does literally nothing.
Background character, yeah.
And 2, it was like, lone gunslinger is played out. Lone gunslinger who has to protect helpless child, slightly less played out. Turns out the child is not helpless after all. But we didn't know that yet.
Man, I mean, it's just like, there's got to be, I can't think of the term right now for it, but, we have so many, like, narratives these days where it's like, the isolated father figure and the orphan that he's, like, raising, with, like, The Witcher and The Mandalorian.
Logan.
And, Logan, even The Last of Us, it's like it's such a interesting.
Yeah, The Last of Us is part of that too.
Yeah, it's a good archetype, and I like it, and I think that they definitely struck the right balance here, and I totally agree with you as well. Like, it just felt like when the show was first announced, it was like, this is just going to be like a Clint Eastwood movie in space. It's just going to be like a gunslinger thing where he's just going pew pew pew, doing his bounty hunter thing.
I was really worried that it was just going to be super masturbatory.
Absolutely, yeah, and we've seen that before in Star Wars. We've seen that like a million times before. So it's nice that they got this tiny little thing and said that's going to be a main part of the story. This little tiny baby who's got force powers.
And it does have me worried for season 3 though, because like to me, I understand there are a lot of viewers who they like to watch The Mandalorian and do cool things. But like I said earlier, that as a story does not interest me. What interested me was The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, Grogu. And I think, and we'll talk about the Luke Skywalker bit later, I think. But in my opinion, Mando giving Grogu to a Jedi, whether it be Luke or someone else, should have been the end of the show. Not as it was in season 2, but I think that should have been the ultimate conclusion of the series is Grogu goes off to train to be a Jedi. Because I think that relationship between the two is it's the emotional core of the show. And unless Grogu is brought back to be part of the story in season 3 for whatever reason, the emotional core of the show is now absent.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. I will say, though, that, the title of the show isn't The Mandalorian and Baby Grogu.
I know.
And I think, I agree with you. Yes, he's like been a very central part of the show. And, even though he wasn't like super like heavily involved, like using his force powers this season, like
Mhm.
he was in season 1. You know, I felt like every like other episode in season 1, he was using his force powers to save
Yeah,
the day.
he did
This
use
time,
him a lot more in season 1.
yeah, and season 2 is a little bit different. But you know, I think
He was just getting them into trouble in season 2.
yeah, he was just kind of there committing
The
his
ice
acts
spider
one
cave.
night. Yeah. Oh,
Oh man, I was so stressed out.
yeah.
That and like eating the poor frog lady's baby.
Yeah, Baby Yoda's a monster.
He is a fucking gremlin. Jesus.
But you know, just kind of going back to the whole Mandalorian thing, you know, I think what'll be interesting is, you know, I think what they're going to do in season 3 is trying to save or salvage, you know, the idea of Mandalore,
Mm-hmm.
because you know the movies didn't touch on Mandalore at all,
No.
and that's okay. But,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
okay. It wasn't really, aside from when the sequels were being made, like the lore of Mandalore wasn't really built out the extent
Yeah.
that it is now. I mean, maybe it was in the books that I haven't read. Sorry, but
We claim to be huge Star Wars nerds. It's like, oh yeah, we've read comic books. We haven't read books.
I think we are huge Star Wars nerds. We just aren't completionists. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this plays into my wider philosophy on stories too. Though it's like a lot of fans, I say fans just of properties, like seem to want them to like their series to go on forever, and I don't view stories that way. Like I think stories are intentionally finite, and it has to have an ending. Otherwise, it's not really a story. That's an essential component. And so for me, growing up, when Return of the Jedi ended, I was like, that's the end of the story. I'm good. And the sequels really had to win me over. I was not on board with the existence of a sequel trilogy until like the final Force Awakens trailer. The one that has Han and Leia's theme in it, and Han's like, it's true, all of it. Like that it was that line specifically that was like, oh, okay, fine, you fucking got my money. I'll buy my tickets now. I was doing my study. We were both studying abroad then, but I was in London, and the trailer premiered at Monday Night Football in America. So I stayed up. Tickets went on sale that night too, but tickets went on sale earlier. So I stayed up and I got 9 tickets to opening night, the first and only midnight premiere I've been to. Opening night of The Force Awakens. I got my tickets at 2 a.m. that morning, and then the trailer, though, didn't premiere until 4 a.m. in London. So I was like, I mean, I'm going to be miserable and tired tomorrow anyway. Might as well stay up for the trailer. And I did. And I watched it like 10 times.
That's some dedication.
Yeah, it was, I didn't need to do that, but I did.
It's an event and it's an experience, you know?
Yeah.
We can talk about it forever now.
Why did I start talking about that? What were we talking about initially?
We're talking about kind of the Mandalore lore.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, I cut you off. I'm sorry. You were talking about Mandalore lore.
Yeah. Well, you know, what I was just thinking was, you know, the Star Wars universe, like Red Letter Media said it before. Like I remember watching a video of them saying it before, where it's like the Star Wars universe is a limited universe, and that kind of clicked for me. It was like, okay, yes, that's totally correct, because you know, it's always going to have TIE fighters. It's always going to have, you know, ATST. It's always going to have some Sith and some Jedi. It's always going to have, you know, those core elements.
Yeah.
So, you know, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, you know, they need to find new ways to expand the universe if Disney wants to keep making money off of this.
100%. I totally agree.
And Mandalore is the perfect way to do that, because it's already been introduced in Clone Wars. You know, you already know what that planet is if you watched the series.
Yeah.
So you kind
and
of
if you didn't, like, that's a whole world to explore.
A whole nother reason to have a Disney Plus subscription for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think...
And it's such a cool looking planet, too. The visual design, especially in that last arc in the Clone Wars that they just released last year, I love the design of those cities. Like, they look stupid from the outside because they're the dome thing, but on the inside, it's like you have buildings hanging from the top of the dome. You have It's like that shot in Doctor Strange where everything's folding in on itself, except that's just what the cities look like.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, I love it. And I mean, if you think back to like season 1 of The Mandalorian, with the, there's all those other Mandalorians hiding out underground. You have like the Smith person, and they are all so devoted to this creed and like, keeping Mandalore alive, like the idea of Mandalore alive, even though it's like gone extinct or whatever. So I think that they have set up some things in the series to continue to expand on that idea of Mandalore in the 3rd season. But I do agree with you about Baby Yoda and how he's been like so integral to the story that 2 seasons and he's gone. It's like, how are you going to fill that void on the show?
And I'm sure season 3 is going to be fun, and it's going to be a good time, and we're going to see a lot of cool things. I just think, in my opinion, most stories are thought of like you think of an idea for a story, and I may be wrong, but my perception or my guess is that the story that came to mind for The Mandalorian is like badass bounty hunter comes across a small child and has to take care of it and make sure it's safe. That story has now reached its conclusion the way they wrote it. It didn't have to have reached its conclusion, but it did.
Right.
So, and I just think, because we see it so many times in stories, it's like, you know that moment when you're watching a show, and you're like, oh shit, that was your ending right there, and you missed it. We talk about The Walking Dead a lot in our personal lives, and we both stopped watching at the same time. But for me, The Walking Dead, they missed their mark on when they should have ended the show. Once they defeated Negan, that should have been it. They should have wrapped it up and called it a day. And then they kept going. And then they lost Rick because he quit. And then they lost Maggie because she quit. And it's like you start having to write off your main characters because they're getting fucking bored of this show they're on. And it's like I don't want that for stories. I want to always remember the stories I love fondly. And an essential thing that makes that happen is them having a satisfying ending. So
absolutely.
That's what makes me worried about season 3. That's the only thing that has me worried about season 3 is
well, I imagine, like, at least my prediction for season 3 is it's going to be mainly Mandalorian, like Mando. He's going to be working with the other Mandalorians,
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, thank you. And Sabine, like, she might show up at some point.
I would love for Sabine to show up. That'd be great.
Yeah,
Sabine.
And it could be this whole thing where they're trying to retake Mandalore. That could be the whole thing of season 3 is they're trying to reestablish Mandalore. They're trying to do, breathe some life back into their creed. And that's what I think is going to be like the main focus of season 3.
I think it is too. And speaking of Bo-Katan, actually, this is her introduction into the show, I think, is the most intelligently done element of the entire season. Because, and here's why. It's like, one, fans of the cartoons, you see her helmet and her body armor and like, holy shit, I know Bo-Katan. She's cool. She's awesome. But a lot of the audience of The Mandalorian has not watched the Clone Wars and Rebels, so they're not going to know that. So I don't know if they did this intentionally or if it just paid off that way. But so for fans of the cartoons, Bo-Katan showing up, big deal, big moment. It's one of the first times the live action stuff has acknowledged what happens in the cartoons. It's cool.
Yeah.
And for cartoon fans, the Bo-Katan reveal is also made into a big deal because she takes her helmet off.
Yeah.
Viewers of The Mandalorian fucking know Mandalorians don't take their helmet off. That's a breaking of the creed. So her doing that solidifies her introduction as like a big deal moment for the entire audience of the show. And then it also allows us to learn more about the world building of the show and the Mandalorian as a character because, it's not part of Mandalorian culture to not take your helmet off, as we would know from the cartoons because they just took them off all the time. But
yeah, they didn't care.
Part of this like cult that he's in.
Yeah, it's interesting to learn more about his upbringing.
The Child of the Watch, right? That's what they're called.
Yeah, something like we had no idea exactly who, or I guess if you were like really paying attention to the details, like the flashbacks in season one, you could be like, oh, he's from the Watch, and that if you were a diehard fan, you could have noticed that. But
it's not Death Watch. I think it's something. Maybe. Oh shit!
Which one is it?
Wait, I didn't realize. I think you might be right though, because Bo-Katan calls him a child of the Watch, and maybe the Watch is what Death Watch from Clone Wars became, because Death Watch in the cartoon was also trying to remake the ancient way. I didn't even think about that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Well done, Niles. You solved Star Wars.
Thank you very much. I'll take my lead.
Expect your check from Lucasfilm any day now. $10,000. You solved the puzzle.
I'll be rolling in bank finally. But yeah, just going back to Bo-Katan just for a second, it was just kind of neat to get some character development for Mando through a third-party character. You know what I mean? Like he didn't say like I'm part of the Watch. Like I was raised by the Watch.
Yeah, I don't think he even knew that's what it was.
Exactly. Like she kind of came in and explained it a little bit more for us because she's the Mandalorian expert.
Yeah.
So I thought that was neat too.
It is funny that because Katie Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan, she voiced Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars and Rebels. It's the same actress, which is pretty cool. But it's like canonically, Bo-Katan is supposed to be like 70 years old at this point, and she just Katie Sackhoff.
She's seen some shit, man.
Yeah.
Seen some shit.
But one element of Bo-Katan that I found kind of weird and irritating is actually in the finale when Mando tries to just give her the Darksaber, and she's like, and then what's his face? Moff Gideon. It's like, that's not. I like the element of the Darksaber that it's not the sword itself, it's the story of the sword that gives the wielder power. But Bo-Katan was like, you can't just give it to me. I'm like, motherfucker, yes he can. Sabine just gave it to you in Rebels, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Unless they're gonna dive into maybe that didn't work out so well in season 3, maybe they'll reveal that. But like, it was weird to me, especially because Dave Filoni, the creator of Clone Wars and Rebels, is like one of the main people in charge on Mandalorian. It's like, bro, that's your own show. Why are you contradicting it in that way?
I think that you are onto something though, because I think in the third season we'll learn a little bit more about because she had the Darksaber last time we saw, and then now Moff Gideon has it at the end of season 1. So it's like, how did he get it? How did he, did he invest her in a duel?
Right.
Did he steal it from her?
It's definitely something to do with this purge that we keep hearing about.
Yeah, so I think we'll get to know a little bit more information about that, and maybe part of the reason why the purge happened was because she got the Darksaber illegitimately.
Incorrectly, okay.
Yeah, so perhaps there could be
it.
Maybe her character is growing a little bit between the series, and she's realizing this isn't the right way to do it. I need to actually follow the story. I'm not going to be able to.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I do love. I love that element of Star Wars in general. It's like, and this plays into Star Wars is not something that's planned out ahead of time. It never has been.
Clearly,
it never has been. George Lucas is fucking lying when he said that he had the whole series planned out writing the original trilogy. He fucking didn't, and it's apparent that he didn't.
Very clear.
But it's like, it's not planned out, and things that were problems initially like are used and turned into something that's a strength, I think. Like the prequels, they sucked. But when Luke references Darth Sidious by name in episode 8, it's like, I got chills in that moment. I'm like, I don't even fucking like these movies, but you referenced them in a way that gave me chills. It's cool. It's like, and that maybe wasn't the best example of this, but and Marvel does it too, actually. Like, people think the MCU is all totally mapped out. It's like they have an idea, but when in Age of Ultron, when Cap like nudges Thor's hammer a little bit, they were not planning on paying that off audience members.
Yeah.
Sorry, they were not. It was a joke. And then the writers of Endgame saw that joke and were like, we can use this. And then Cap catches Thor's hammer. All of a sudden, that joke becomes a setup to a payoff. And Star Wars storytelling has always been like that. It's like figuring shit out. And like in the original movie, Vader was not Luke's dad. He just wasn't. The movie was not written that way. In Empire, Lawrence Kasdan was like, it would be interesting if Vader was Luke's dad. So Vader became Luke's dad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting how stories develop like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you plant a seed and you see what grows from it. And
yeah, that's how George R.R. Martin describes his writing process.
Right. Yeah, that's
gardening. He calls it.
Yeah, you see what happens, what you sow, and maybe something good comes from it. Maybe you get total shit, and maybe you get a New Hope remake, and maybe you get something else.
Yeah. It like, and also just ask any writer about planning your story out. They'll all, I mean, Quentin Tarantino has even said planning out the ending of your story is pointless because you're going to get halfway through writing it and realize it doesn't make sense and you're going to throw it out and do something different.
Let me go ahead and change gears here. Maybe because we were just talking about Bo-Katan. I just had a question here, just kind of in our notes, about the number of cameos. So notoriously, you know, this season clearly had a lot of cameos.
Had a lot, yeah.
Between Bo-Katan and Ahsoka and even Luke Skywalker there at the end. So let me ask you this question. Do you think it was too many cameos this season? Was it too few? What did you think?
I actually don't. I think it was fine. And here's why. I think for us, like hardcore fans who watch all the shows and know all this stuff, it may have felt like a lot of the time, but take your average Star Wars viewer. They don't watch the Clone Wars, they don't watch Rebels, they don't know any of this shit. They don't know these are fan servicey cameos. And I think number of cameos is kind of irrelevant. It's about how they're integrated. And I think each of them, save maybe Luke Skywalker, and I think that's a whole in-depth conversation we can have in a bit, but Bo-Katan integrated very well. Mando is looking for Mandalorians, finds Bo-Katan. It gives us new information about Mando, Mandalorian culture, and it's also fan service for audience members who know Bo-Katan. Ahsoka, Mando is sent by the Mandalorian he found, Bo-Katan, to find a Jedi, and Ahsoka and Bo-Katan know each other from the cartoons, so she sent him to Ahsoka. And so I don't think it's too much necessarily. Because they're integrated well into the story.
Yeah, I'd agree.
What did you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with you for the most part. You know, because when you look back at the first season of Mandalorian, there's like no cameos.
Yeah,
like it's all new characters. Everyone's new. It's all new kind of places. I mean, there's Sand Planet, of course.
I guess Boba Fett might be the exception to that. He was very fan servicey, and I liked him, but I don't think he was needed.
Well,
I do anything once he shows up.
I mean, I'll kind of agree with you to a certain extent on that point, but I love the fact that they brought Boba into this series because I remember when The Mandalorian was first coming out, my dad was asking me like, "So is The Mandalorian Boba Fett?" I'm like, "No, it's an entirely different thing." But of course, they were going to get that question by a million people probably. So they're like, "Let's see how we can integrate this old character back into the story." And I also liked it that he was included because if you look at his appearances in the films, he looks kind of like a bitch. He looks like totally useless,
which is why I love him. I love in Empire he's this stone cold badass, and then in Jedi he just dies like a chump. I love it. Blind Han Solo accidentally bumps him in the back, and that causes him to die.
That's absurd, and I think that's great.
Oh, Fett, where?
Yeah. Bonk. Oh, and then he's gone forever. So, I don't think that we, in the context of the movies and everything, I don't think we've really ever seen like Boba Fett to his extreme, like as cool and as badass as he can be, with the exception of, those few episodes in the prequel or in the Clone Wars where he's there and stuff.
Yeah, he's all right in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, he's a fine character, I guess.
Yeah.
But, it's nice to actually see how awesome and badass he can be.
Yeah.
And,
I do care about Boba Fett now. Which cool.
Yeah.
I didn't really before. Like I thought he was fine. He's cool in Empire. He serves his story purpose perfectly in Empire. And then he didn't need to be in Return of the Jedi. And like I think he is so beloved because he looks cool. But now he's a character. He has a personality. Like I like him a lot more now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's some good fan service in there too with the seismic charge and everything.
That was the best. The best thing the prequels gave us, that sound effect.
Yeah, seriously. Like I remember in 2002 watching Attack the Clones in theaters and like, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. Like just that whole chase sequence through the asteroid field. So it's nice to see circling back and saying this is something we need to have in this series.
Yeah, I got it. That's the weird thing about the prequels too. It's like I don't like those movies, but when that little seismic charge showed up in the Mandalorian, I'm like, no fucking way, they're gonna do the sound.
But it's so cool, and yeah, I mean, even when you go back to the OG trilogy, Boba Fett never uses his ship except to just kind of fly away with Han Solo, and it's like you never get to see him use it. The only time you get to see it used is in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. So it's nice to see that starship being used once again. And yeah, I think he's a very neat character to include.
Yeah, I will say when it got leaked or announced that is it Tamara Morrison? How do you say his name?
I think so. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Tamara Moore. Yeah, I may have pronounced it wrong, but when it was announced he was coming back, I was like, okay, well, they're either going to do Boba Fett or what I would have preferred to see was Captain Rex. Maybe we'll still get Rex later on because they Rex is a bald man now. He has a little beard. It would have been fun to see, and Rex is confirmed to have survived past Return of the Jedi. So I thought maybe Rex was going to show up with Ahsoka.
Well, with Ahsoka's show coming up, I think we'll definitely see Rex at some point.
I hope so.
It would be silly for them to make that show and not have a single scene with a Rex.
I do. On the note of the Ahsoka show, just a quick tangent. I feel really bad for Ashley Eckstein, the voice actress for Ahsoka in the cartoons, because it's she shepherded this character for over a decade. And when Ahsoka first showed up, people fucking hated her, and she had to be the character through that. And as we know, the toxicity of Star Wars fans can be a real rough go. And now all of a sudden, you have this character who's almost universally beloved and is now getting their own show. Not animated. It's live action with a different actress. And it also apparently took the place of an animated Rebels sequel that would have starred Sabine and Ahsoka. It's that fucking sucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's doing she's being very gracious and stuff, and I'm that's got to burn a little bit to have the character just taken away from you.
Yeah, after you put all this work and energy into it, it's that's a shame. Yeah, I
wanted that animated Rebel sequel. I really wanted to watch that.
Well, since we're talking about Ahsoka show, I think that's definitely something that they might explore.
The search for Ezra.
Because we saw her inquiring about where Thrawn was.
Oh yeah, I totally. That's so cool. I love that Thrawn is going to be a force in this.
Exactly. So I bet that's actually going to be probably one of the plot lines of the Ahsoka show is her teaming up with Sabine to go find Ezra and Thrawn, so then we can get a live action Thrawn and a live action Ezra, which will be really neat. And so I could see that being a storyline, but I really hope it's also explores some other things outside of that for Ahsoka too.
Yeah, I think I don't know if they've said this or if this is just a theory, but that the Star Wars TV world is going to culminate in a series Like they're like an Avengers style series where the shows converge on a certain storyline, and that will probably be Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is a cool callback because in the books, which I didn't read, but the old expanded universe, which is now Legends, the story arc that occurs after Return of the Jedi is the Heir to the Empire trilogy, where Thrawn was first introduced. He's the main antagonist. He's the Imperial authority that steps in once Palpatine and Vader are gone, and that's who Luke, Han, and Leia face next. Apparently,
I didn't know that.
I have not read them, but they brought the original author of those books back to write the new canon Thrawn trilogy, which follows Thrawn through like the Clone Wars up until the original era, which is cool. Thrawn's a great character. I really love him.
Absolutely. You know, I remember watching Rebels and getting through it, and you know, some of those episodes is definitely a good show. You know, it's kind of difficult to watch sometimes, but you know, Thrawn is one of the better characters in the show.
He's a great villain.
He's so interesting and calculated, and you know, stoic. Like I loved every scene that he was in.
Yeah, so and he's a pretty unique villain. Like because he for those who didn't watch the shows or haven't read the books, like Thrawn, one of Thrawn's big character traits is he beats his opponents by studying their culture and their art and using information he learns from that as a way to predict their battle strategies, and that's how he wins, which is really cool.
Yeah, like he'll just kind of let them escape, and he's like, yes, okay, so now I know how I'm gonna lay the trap for the next time, and I'm gonna get them. Yeah, he's very calculated, so I'm excited to see where he ends up in Ahsoka's show and everything.
Shifting gears a little bit again, one of my favorite things in The Mandalorian is the Tusken Raiders. I think the way the show has built on that mythology is so interesting. Because before they were just like the Sand People, they're bad, and then that's it, which was fine for their role in the story, but now, like, because Mando speaks their language and interacts with them, we're getting information about their culture and how they behave and act, and they're not just monsters, which is so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree, because, you know, every time we've seen them, you know, they've been attacking people, they've been, you know, getting slaughtered like animals. They've been
not just the men, but the women and the children too. They're animals, and I slaughtered them like animals.
What a legendary meme.
Yes.
I totally agree. You know, we've only ever seen them as like just an antagonistic force,
right,
in the story. You know, and it's nice to see them in a different light, and it also kind of speaks, you know, the balance of the force. You know, you can't have, you know, the good without the bad.
Right.
You know, there's a good balance, and I think that speaks to every kind of facet of life. You know,
totally.
You can't be like self-reliant scavengers without, you know, kind of conceding sometimes and saying, yeah, we need some help. Let's work together. Let's talk. You can pass.
And that first episode of this season was so great because I really like that Cobb Vanth character too, Timothy Olyphant's character. I was hoping he'd come back. Hopefully we'll see more of him soon. I understand his role in the story is to be the marshal of this small town in the middle of nowhere, but he was really cool. Got great hair, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't get helmet hair, and
no,
a skill that Mando needs to learn.
Yeah, I mean, Mando's isn't all that bad, all things considered.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, when he first took his helmet off in season 1, he was like, "What the hell is with your hair?"
I know he looked bad in season 1.
Yeah,
he was also dying, so we'll cut him some slack.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Cobb Vanth was a good character, and it was nice to see them expanding that part of the universe, you know, exploring a little bit more and saying, okay, these people have always been kind of universally hated in Star Wars. Let's bring them in a different light.
Yeah. I hope we see more of Mando's face going forward. I think Pedro Pascal is such a good actor. I would like to see him be able to emote more. But I want that now. I didn't at first because he had a very character-focused reason for not removing the helmet. And so that, to me, when he finally did remove his helmet in the second to last episode, he hit for me because I'm like, shit, he cares so much about Baby Yoda that he will abandon the creed by which he lives his life to save him. And in the finale, it was like I teared up in the finale when he sang goodbye to Grogu. It the emotion of the scene was a little bit taken away by the CGI Luke Skywalker, but the farewell between Mando and Grogu, I think, was super powerful.
Absolutely, and I think in season 3, he won't be wearing the helmet as much. He'll still wear it, but I think, like you just said, he valued Baby Yoda more than his creed, and I think that shows. Obviously he's growing as a character, he's changing, and he's developing new bonds with people. So I think moving forward, he's going to start realizing the creed isn't really what's important. It's the idea of the creed. It's the people. It's the
especially as he interacts with Mandalorians who aren't children of the Watch.
I agree. So I think he won't wear his helmet as much.
Did you notice? I think this is so funny, and it's never mentioned or brought up in the show whatsoever. But in the first episode with Bo-Katan, she has like her 2 Mandalorian friends. There's the girl and then the dude. And then when he goes back and meets them again, the dude is just gone.
I noticed that. What happened to him?
I don't know. They don't mention that he's gone. He's just not there anymore.
Maybe he's because they captured the cruiser, right? So maybe he was off piloting it somewhere.
Yeah, maybe he went back to Mandalore or something. I just think it's like
maybe he died. I don't know.
Maybe he died. Yeah.
And they're just chilling there eating, like, oh well.
Yeah, it's. I just think it's so funny that like no one thinks to mention that he's not there anymore.
I know. Yeah, it's like, we don't really need to talk about it. He's not there.
Did you have anything you were disappointed in this season?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think I had too many disappointments. I think, I would have liked to see Carl Weathers back a little bit more. He was there for an episode, but just considering like how big of a role he had in the first season, I was kind of expecting him to have a similar role this season, but no big deal.
Yeah, I would have liked more of him too.
Yeah, he played his role and he did a good job with it. You don't need a ton of him.
I'm disappointed that they edited out like Gene's guy. You remember Gene's guy? From the episode Carl Weathers was in, he directed that episode too. But there's a shot where Mando, Cara Dune, and Grief Cargo, which is Carl Weathers, they were like walking through a doorway, and a crew member is like in the doorway, and you can see Gene's.
It's their version of the Game of Thrones coffee cup.
I know. I understand that these types of errors should not happen in massive like productions like this, but I think they're funny, and I'm sad when they get removed. Like, I missed the Game of Thrones coffee cup, and then HBO removed it with CGI, and I'm sad because I want to see it. It's just like the stormtrooper hitting his head in A New Hope. It's that stuff happens, and if you just let it sit there, eventually it'll become like oddly beloved. It's like a little funny thing that happened in production. I don't think it's an issue, but
I mean, if I did have one disappointment, it might be like the action. Like, all the action was amazing. All the shooting and stuff like that, all the violence was really something. But I think to a certain degree, there was like a surplus of it.
Okay.
Like, it felt like every single episode, he's firing his gun a lot. There's a lot of blaster bolts going around, and that's not like a big problem. But I remember there's probably like at least like 1 or 2 episodes from season 1 where like violence was like a very small part of like the episode, and sometimes maybe there wasn't much violence at all.
Yeah.
So if I did have a disappointment, maybe it was that. Maybe we could have had like another episode of him just kind of like reflecting, taking it easy,
Okay. Yeah.
Or not necessarily, just sitting around doing nothing, but maybe more like character focused, like a character focused episode, or like something where they didn't have to fire their blaster once. It was like diplomatic or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be cool, especially since that's out of his element, kind of.
Yeah.
I did love, speaking of out of his element too, the episode where he and Mayfield go into the Empire base, and he has to take his helmet off to save Grogu. Pedro Pascal made the acting decision to, and I think we've talked about this already off air, but he made the decision to, instead of like, he doesn't turn his eyes at all. He always turns his full head because he's so used to wearing the helmet where he has to do that to change his field of view. And it's like, cool. That's a good acting move. Good job.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Small attention to detail.
Exactly. It's so great.
And I mean, I was just gonna say, if there was only one other disappointment, I'd have to say it's the elephant in the room. It's CGI Luke.
Okay, I was about to say, do you want to talk about Luke Skywalker? Yeah. So let's talk about Luke Skywalker.
Talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about this weird ass CGI Luke Skywalker.
It's so bad. Terrible.
It's like, it just like lacks charisma, you know? It's
like, and did you, sorry, I cut you off. What were you?
No, like it's difficult to find words to describe it, you know? Because like, yes, he kind of looks like Luke Skywalker. Yes, he's kind of got the hair, but there's just something weird about it.
The thing that gets me is, so Marvel does de-aging a lot too. And in my opinion, the de-aging in the Marvel movies is pretty great. But the way they do it is the actor is there, and then they de-age them. And so they're getting the actor's actual performance and everything. What I've been able to read on The Mandalorian is they had a stand-in, and Mark Hamill did voiceover, and then they constructed the face. It's like, could you not get Mark Hamill for an afternoon? I'm sure he would have come in. It's the same company. Disney owns Lucasfilm and Marvel. Why are you not using the same process for this tech? Like, it's looked like ass every time Star Wars has done it. Like, Luke looked like shit. Leia looked like shit in Rogue One. Tarkin looked like shit in Rogue One. Just fucking use. I mean, I get it. You can't have Peter Cushing because he's dead, and so was Carrie Fisher at the time. But like, Mark Hamill's not dead. He's there. Just call him in. Was it a secrecy thing? I don't understand.
I don't get it either. And I mean, I will disagree with you a little bit about like Tarkin and Leia. Like, they weren't amazing, but like when it was kind of on screen, I was like, oh, that does kind of look like Grand Moff Tarkin. And like, I think that they got like those lines in his face pretty well.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's impressive. What they've done is impressive, but with Tarkin, you know, in Rogue One, at first it's like you see the back of his head and the reflection in the window. They could have just done that. Did it that, and I think that would have been more. One, it would have looked better. Two, it would have been more tasteful. Because I don't know where I stand on the ethics of like using dead people's faces to bring back characters.
Yeah,
it's like you can recast. You could get a similar looking old man to play Tarkin. It's okay.
Yeah,
and he's not that important to the story of Rogue One anyway. If you read the prequel book to Rogue One, Tarkin is important to Krennic, but most people didn't. And their relationship is not treated as very important in the movie anyway.
Yeah.
But...
well, yeah, it's kind of weird because, I don't want to see that happen with, like, you know, like Count Dooku's character. Like, I don't want to see, like, a CGI Count Dooku or, like, you know... I
don't want to see any Count Dooku.
Totally, like, but, like,
Count
you know,
Dooku sucks.
Like, if they're just scraping the bottom of the barrel for ideas and they're like, oh, a Count Dooku show. Like, I don't want to see that, obviously. No one wants to see that, but, you know, like... I could definitely
Let's take the worst character in Star Wars and make a show about him. No disrespect to Christopher Lee.
Totally, yeah.
Greatest of all time, obviously. But, and also World War I veteran and Nazi hunter. Like, genuine badass Christopher Lee.
Amazing guy. And
have you heard the story from the set of Lord of the Rings? Where, in the extended edition, and it's a deleted scene, but it's in the extended edition, actually. Saruman dies. Wormtongue like stabs him in the back, and apparently Peter Jackson was telling him to make a noise, and Christopher Lee was like, "That's not what it sounds like when you get stabbed in the back. I've stabbed people. It's just a."
Yeah, like
it's like holy shit.
Holy shit! There's a knife in my back.
Yeah. It's like, I've killed people in war. That's not what it sounds like when you get stabbed with a knife.
Yeah.
But
so badass. No, I agree with you totally. Like the only point I was trying to make was just like, there's an ethical question of like, do we really want to put this person in there if they're dead? Like,
yeah.
you know,
and
but
so much else you can do instead. You don't have to tell stories and include the characters played by dead actors, or you can recast, or you can just, I don't know, do anything else.
It could even be like, you know, just like a hologram talking to like the new boss.
Yeah.
You know, it could have just been like a hologram talking to Krennic, and that would have been fine. You know.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But yeah, that CGI aside, I think we're both in agreement that it looked pretty bad. What did you think of Luke's scene?
I liked it. You know, it wasn't because you know when I think because you know the whole season they're talking about we need to get Baby Yoda to a Jedi, and I always did assume that was going to be Ahsoka. So when she kind of said no, I can't train him, I was like, well, I guess that makes sense because she's not technically a Jedi and she rejected the creed and stuff like that. So it makes sense for her. But it kind of took me by surprise. So I was like, who else could they do? So it was nice to see Luke brought back in, and you know, honestly, we only seen Luke at his like prime, like at the end of
for like 5 minutes. Yeah,
like when he's battling Vader, it's like that's Luke in his prime. So it's like we've never really seen in live action him doing cool ass Jedi things.
Yeah, I'd argue at the end of Last Jedi that is his prime, but also he's still older. But like when he's doing that, like when he's the projection and he does like that little spin flip thing, like that's pretty cool. But it's also fake. But I liked it too. Overall, there was one thing I don't like, and it bothered me about Ahsoka too. And that is, Luke and Ahsoka both felt so distant and like prequel Jedi to me. They're like attachment bad, blah blah blah. I'm emotionless, and I don't think either character should have been like that. Especially, like, I could see Luke maybe trying to emulate the Jedi of old because eventually that's what leads him to make his mistake with Ben. He's trying to do the old thing for a while, and it doesn't work out. But with Ahsoka, it's like she talks about Grogu's attachment being dangerous, referencing Anakin. But I'm like, you've been palling around with Ezra and Kanan, and they have attachments out the ass, and they're great. So I just didn't think those characters should believe that at this stage in their life. That was my only problem with the Jedi in the show.
Yeah, I can understand that. You know, I definitely think it speaks to the flaw of the Jedi, you know, that the code is just inherently like impossible to follow.
Yeah. And it's inhuman.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think that's the point of the prequels, right? I think we're all in a consensus. That is the purpose of the prequels, is to show the Jedi kind of sucked. And
absolutely, yeah. If there was a point.
Yeah. Money. And I think Rian Johnson got that in episode 8, but it's starting to feel like in a lot of Star Wars media, they seem to be forgetting that. They're making Luke be like that. They had Ahsoka be like that. And Ahsoka especially, like, she was framed for murder or something.
Yeah.
Jedi Council totally turned on her. Like, she shouldn't like them. But other than that, I like the scene.
Well, it's also, I think, to a certain degree, you also have to acknowledge the fact that there's no more Jedi in the galaxy, really. Like, there's no more order. The bad guys basically reign supreme, even though the Empire's gone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, how do you build up from that? How do you ensure that, like, the next generation of Force wielders are going to be good guys?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you don't really know where to start, the Jedi Code is kind of the good way to go, I suppose.
That's fair.
You know, I feel like, I don't know. Grogu will be able to make his own decisions about the way he uses the Force. So,
He's already choking people.
He's already committing genocide.
Did you think? I didn't, but some people seem to have thought that Luke's portrayal in The Mandalorian contradicts or diminishes the way he's portrayed in Last Jedi. Do you think that's true at all?
No, not at all.
I don't either. It's like he's at a totally different stage of his life. Like, this is more or less what he would be behaving like now. And The Last Jedi takes place 25 years later. Like, he has a lot of life to live before we see him.
Yeah. Yeah, and The Mandalorian is just like 2 years after
It's 5 after Return of the Jedi, I think.
5. Okay, so, he's starting to get his school together. So, yeah, I think...
I think Ben is like 4 or 5 at this point. So he's not being trained by Luke yet.
Yeah, he's still got a little bit of time to grow up. So, yeah, I think it was great to see Luke come in. Like, I was curious about which Jedi it was going to be at the end there.
When the X-Wing shows up on screen, I think we're all like, oh my God.
As soon as it was flying, it was like, that's only one person. There's no one else who flies an X-Wing.
What was I going to say? I almost know 100% that they're not going to do this, but they had to have realized that every viewer at a certain point in their head when Luke takes Grogu has the thought, boy, I hope he leaves Luke's school.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he's going to get burned by Kylo Ren.
Yeah, he's going to face the music.
Yeah, it's like, they can't do that to Baby Yoda. They can't have him die at Luke's school.
Absolutely. I think that they'll also kind of resolve what happens to Grogu by the end of like season 3,
Yeah.
Like
at minimum by the end of the show.
Yeah. Like I feel like at least he'll like reach out to him through the Force, and maybe like Mando will wake up one day and be like, Grogu, or something like that. He has like this small little connection with him, or maybe he sees him in person, like they reconnect that way.
I hope the show ends with Grogu with Mando. I think I saw some fan art of like an old Grogu. He's like kind of a Jedi Master bounty hunter hybrid, and they put like this, and he has there's that one picture of him squatting holding the Mandalorian's helmet. Because the Yoda species is long-lived, so he will outlive Mandalorian, presumably. And then there's the other one where he's, like, meditating, and he has the pauldron on his shoulder. And
that's a cool one.
I forget the full quote, but it's actually super powerful, because it's, like, its voice is like someone goes to Grogu for advice, and he gives this, like, speech about something, and he's like, but Master Grogu, that sounds impossible. He's like, no, it's not impossible. It is the way. It's like, I love it so much.
A whole new creed of Jedi.
Yeah, but the action of Luke's scene was so cool. He was so smooth and badass. The visual parallel to the Vader hallway scene weirded me out a little bit, as did the fandom's response to putting them side by side and being like father, like son. Like, are you sure? In the Vader scene, he was murdering rebels. In the Luke scene, he's saving a baby. Like, you don't want them to be the same.
Very different. They're just two different kinds of badass.
Yes. Yeah.
Star Wars has just got some cool ass hallway scenes, man, with Darth Maul and Darth Vader.
In the Clone Wars, that hallway scene was cool.
Yeah, so it's just the year of hallway scenes, I guess.
Yeah, Luke taking Grogu was cool, though. I do still think that should have been the ultimate end of the show, not the season 2 finale, but it is what it is,
Let me ask you this. What did you think about, because, like, he didn't say who he was. He didn't say his name or anything like that. He was just like, are you a Jedi? And he said, I am. Did you want to hear his name?
I was fine with it. And this is also not doing what he did, but this is more or less how I wanted to see Luke in this show if we ever did. And I think I told you this before, but I wanted a moment where Mando and Luke like cross paths at one point and they have similar interest for a time and they team up. And we as an audience member understand this is Luke Skywalker, but he never says his name. He's just a figure that enters the story and leaves the story. And more or less what happened, more integral to the main plot than I would have preferred, I think. But I was cool with him not saying it. I don't think it's needed. It is odd that Mando is like, I'm gonna give my child to you, stranger.
This random dude who just showed up and saved the day.
Yeah. And
can I see your credentials first before
can
I
I
hand
see
you
can
my
I see
child?
some ID?
You have a Jedi badge somewhere?
Yeah. And one thing too that I wanted to say before I forget is Luke being such like mega badass is I would maybe have an issue with it if it were just normal, but just normal. That's a really stupid way to say that. But it would feel masturbatory to me, except that we are seeing him do this through the eyes of Mando and, more importantly, Grogu. So it's like he does seem larger than life and like this awesome badass because we're seeing it from the perspective of a baby. Like, that's our point of view character into the scene, and so I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Because he is almost unimaginable in power compared to the characters we follow on the show.
Yeah, like he's OP and everyone else is like just totally underpowered. And yeah, I agree. I personally, I think I would have liked to hear him say like, I'm a Jedi, Luke Skywalker. Like, say his full name.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Yeah, like,
Kenobi.
like, not because like it would be like fan service or anything like that. Just because of Bo-Katan was there, and she knows who the Skywalkers are because of everything that happened on Mandalore, right?
Does she know Anakin? I can't remember. Have they met?
I could have sworn that she knows about Anakin, but maybe she doesn't.
Maybe
but...
I would have to rewatch the show. I don't remember. And she definitely knows Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. I just don't know if she actually met Anakin.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe she didn't. But maybe she knows about who Anakin Skywalker was, and that could have been like an interesting be like, oh, how about that? Or like, Boba Fett wasn't in the room per se. Boba Fett was flying off somewhere else. But like, if he was there at the time,
he was going to kill Bib Fortuna.
Like, oh my god, I almost killed you at the Sarlacc pit. Like, I was gonna shoot you. Like,
that would have been interesting.
Yeah, but maybe that'll happen at a later date. Anything's possible, I guess.
Yeah. Did I also would have liked at the end of Luke's rescue for Mando to have helped and done something, because it is Deus Ex Machina. It's fine. I'm not upset about it, but it's like they're in an unwinnable situation, and then Luke shows up. It is kind of set up ahead of time that like Grogu reached out, but like they're fucked, and then they're not because a magician appeared.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like going back to that idea that we talked about earlier about like everyday citizens just going about their business in the galaxy, odds are you're probably never going to see a Jedi in your life. You're never going to like run across one. True. It's going to be like such a freak accident, and this was certainly a freak accident for all of them because like it's in the middle of nowhere. They're just trying to do this simple rescue mission, and then all of a sudden Jedi shows up and saves the day. It's like that's the legend of what a Jedi is. So they're the heroes that show up at the last hour to protect the innocent.
And I love it too because I think it adds weight to Luke's regret in The Last Jedi, because remember when he's talking to Rey about how he failed Ben, and he's like, he basically like, I took him and I thought I could teach him because I was Luke Skywalker, a legend. And it's like, this is that legend. We get to see the legend that gave him such arrogance to think he could be such a great mentor to his nephew. And I think it adds a lot of sadness to how that played out, because he is a great Jedi and he's a great hero, but he wasn't a good teacher.
Absolutely.
Like, generally speaking, you don't want to pull a sword on your sleeping students.
Yeah.
Rule of thumb.
That's a good 101 for every teacher out there. Yeah. Don't try to kill your students.
What about spin-offs? You excited for anything that was announced at that Disney investor thing, all the spin-off shows and movies?
I'm as excited as I can be right now. Once these things start coming out, I will watch them, of course.
Yeah.
But was I ever really asking for the Book of Boba? No, I didn't really need that. Like, actually, honestly, if this season ended like that with him, killing the Fortuna and all that stuff, That would have been fine. I would have been like, okay, I don't need any more Boba Fett, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see where they take it. And
Yeah,
I
and
am
what it
excited.
is.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see, like, does he return to his old bounty hunter ways, or does he just become like a crime lord?
Yeah.
And what is it going to explore, like, his childhood too? Like, is there going to be some more stuff from that era of his time, or like, how he became the Boba Fett that we know?
Totally.
In Empire Strikes Back. So there could be some interesting things to explore there. I'm definitely more excited for the Ahsoka show.
Me too. It's
there's so much more that they can do.
Whatever Rangers of the New Republic is, like, that's an interesting title. I think it's too much, though.
It's a lot. It's a lot of content. And
it's so much. It's like
not everything needs to be like this massive Marvel universe spanning like 30 movies and like 20 million TV shows. Like, at a certain point, you kind of got to say, that's enough Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree. And I love Marvel. I love the MCU, but I don't want Star Wars to be the Star Wars cinematic universe. Like, I'm glad for the most part they're moving away from movies and focusing on different media, because I'd like there to be some element of finality. But yeah, the Ahsoka show could be cool.
There's that Ocelite one, right? Too. That one's like the
Acolyte.
Thank you. That's the High Republic one, right? Like it explores.
I don't know. I don't think there are any details really about it yet.
Well, that's an era that I'd like to explore some more. Maybe they could introduce or finally like put them on screen like Darth Malgus, or like some of those other.
Oh, that's the Old Republic. That's different.
Oh, the Old Republic. Excuse me.
The Old Republic. The Old Republic is older than the High Republic.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that would be cool. And after I read the book I'm reading now, I'm gonna read the Light of the Jedi, which is the first High Republic novel. That's their new publishing initiative, and at 250 years before the prequels, I think. So, and it's supposed to be like the Jedi at their best. This is when they are awesome. Yoda's in it because he's 900 years old, so he's like slightly younger. And in those, but the Old Republic is 1,000 years before the prequels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to explore a different era and widen it a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, going back to that whole thing, just there's so much content. There's so much Star Wars content now, and like, I don't know. I feel like there's other things that you could be doing with your time, Disney, than creating more Star Wars, but whatever.
They just know it's profitable, man.
Yeah. They're going to keep making it until the eventually.
Oh, my Audacity stopped recording. No. Uh-oh. That's not good. Well, I guess
looks like mine's still going, I think.
Oh, no, mine. Oh, it's back. Okay. I don't know what that was. Okay, well, I'll QA that when I'm editing.
I'm recording too, so hopefully I got some of your stuff.
Yeah. You want to switch? You want to close out the main story? Move on? Close some other stuff?
Yeah, sure. I think we talked this basically to death, the Mandalorian. Season 2, any final thoughts on it that you got?
I liked it. It was good.
That's good enough.
It's not the Mandalorian is and never was my favorite Star Wars thing, but it is consistently a great TV show.
Yeah.
It's like, I would rank it, I think. So my movie ranking is Empire, A New Hope, Last Jedi, Force Awakens, Return of the Jedi, Solo, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, and Phantom Menace. And I would probably put Mandalorian on par with or a little bit higher than Solo.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely think it's like one of the better things to come out of the Star Wars universe lately. Especially with Episode 9 being so polarizing. But
Oh, I forgot about Episode 9. Episode 9 is above Episode 3. I do think it's better than the prequels, but it's worse than everything else.
Yeah, I feel yeah. But yeah, it's a good show, and I'm looking forward to what comes next in season 3.
Excellent.
Not too disappointed at all.
So, what else have you been watching or reading or playing?
Kind of a lot of the same stuff that we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm actually only got one more episode left in The Wire, so
Nice.
I'm gonna watch that today, and I think I'm gonna cry because it's so beautiful. Like, I actually teared up at the most recent episode I watched, because it's like finally all these, like, storylines are getting concluded, and everything's kind of being tied up in a nice bow, and some of the characters are like, I'm so happy for them, and some of them you're like, I'm so angry that this is your conclusion. Are you serious? Like, so I think, that's gonna be a tearjerker later for me today. Gonna be watching that, and start of rewatching It's Always Sunny, of course. Can never watch
Nice.
It's Always Sunny.
I need to watch that still. I've seen episodes, but never the whole show.
It's so solid. And I mean, otherwise I've just been really busy with work, so I haven't done a whole lot of reading lately, unfortunately. But I want to get back on top of that, so I haven't been reading anything too crazy interesting lately, unfortunately. How about you?
Well, in terms of reading, I'm still reading Words of Radiance, the second Stormlight Archive book. Great stuff. I'm like 350 pages into it, which means I'm almost halfway. And I actually forgot to mention this in the first episode, but like a month and a half ago, I watched this movie, Love and Monsters. It stars Dylan O'Brien and Jessica Henwick. And it was, it has Michael Rooker, Yondu, and Merle. He's in it.
Cool.
And it's basically this, like, there's a nuclear disaster or something, and it makes like all these monsters and huge like bugs and insects, and it makes the world super dangerous. And the movie is basically Dylan O'Brien's character discovers his girlfriend from before the apocalypse is still alive in a different underground community, and he's a completely incompetent fool, basically, and he's like, I'm gonna go on the surface and go find my girlfriend, and everybody is like, you shitting me? No, you'll die. And it's just about him trying to go meet back up with her and and rekindle their relationship. It's a really funny movie. It's an action. It's like an adventure comedy, road trip comedy action thing. It was really fun. And I also watched. It's all on YouTube. I watched Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, which is
Dark Place.
It's a British comedy series. It's only 6 episodes, and it's a show. It's like a supernatural thriller set in a hospital, except it's not, because it's really a mockumentary about the creator of that show doing a retrospective on his series. And he's like, the character Garth Marenghi is like a Stephen King type, but just a total fucking hack. And he's reflecting on Dark Place as being this like thing that was just too bold and out there for TV, and it keeps cutting back to the episodes of the unaired show, and it's just trash. It's so good. And like in one of his interview bits, he's like, he some of the things he says, he's like, I'm one of the few people you'll meet who's written more books than they've read. And he's like, I've known a lot of authors who use subtext, and all of them are cowards.
So on the nose.
You would really like it. You would really like it. The whole thing is on YouTube.
Okay, check
all
that
6 episodes. And then I watched 2 other movies. I watched Speed Racer, which is the Wachowski sisters who did The Matrix, and it's like, it is a movie that was just critically reviled when it came out. It definitely took some adjustment when watching it, because it's like, aside from the actors, basically the entire movie is CGI and intentionally wonky looking. Like, it's very cartoony. But I liked it. John Goodman's in it. And then I also watched The Lighthouse with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. What
did you think?
It was so weird. I loved it.
Right?
Very uncomfortable to watch, but
that final scene of like him just like looking in the light just sticks with me.
Yeah.
Like, what was the light? I want to know. But that's like a common thing for that director. He doesn't do the entire reveal.
Yeah, I need to watch is it The Witch? Is that what it's called? His first?
Witch, yeah, check out The Witch. That is such a phenomenal film. Like, if you've like, it's a good horror movie that's not like traditional horror. Like
Okay.
it's very interesting, and like, there's not like a bunch of jump scares. It's like psychological, and this is
Okay.
cool. It's
Yeah.
really neat.
The cinematography of the lighthouse was so striking. Just every
Yeah.
shot was beautifully framed, and the 4:3 aspect ratio and the black and white really added to the storytelling and the feeling of isolation and like old timiness. I don't think the movie would have worked if it were shot traditionally.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like if it was in
Traditionally is the
all
wrong word, but
color, yeah, if it was all color, that would have been an entirely different film.
yeah, and it did a really, aside from just being black and white and shot in 4:3, it felt old. Like the sound design felt old. It felt like an older movie, and it was just really so well made overall.
Yeah,
across the board.
absolutely, it was. I love that movie to death. And there's another movie that I watched recently. I'm trying to find it. Can't remember what it was
What
called.
about?
Hold on. Let me find the name of it first. I don't want to
Okay.
fuck that up.
Trying to think. I'm still playing Hades, obviously. Watching WandaVision.
I beat Hades. And
Yeah.
I finally got to the end there.
Let's see. Oh, are you caught up on WandaVision, by the way?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Still got to get there. Hold on. Hey, Isabel. What was that little forte you did? What's it called?
No.
I can't remember.
It's all right. You can talk about it on the next episode. Yes. Don't want too much dead air.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. That's about it for me and what I've been watching.
Sorry, hopefully you can edit this.
Get this name,
okay.
folks.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, so it was called Extraordinary. It's this movie. Came out in like 2019. It's real quick. It's like an hour and a half, I think. But it's got like Will Forte as like one of the leading roles. It's kind of like a comedy movie, but it's I think it's like a New Zealand movie or something like that. It's got these really like little known actors, but it's kind of like a Ghostbusters movie, but a little bit more realistic. So like
interesting.
This woman, she can like exercise and like get like these demons to get out of your body, but like Will Forte is like this one-hit wonder musician, and he's using like satanic powers to get like to like sell his soul to the devil and do like all this stuff to get like another #1 hit and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Stuff, and it's a really fun movie. It's really funny, and like the main character is there to like try and thwart him basically.
Gotcha.
It's cool. A good one. I'd recommend that one. Extraordinary.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to close it out then for the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So note for audience members, we're doing something a little weird. Where next episode, 2 weeks from now, we either might just do news or might just do a main topic. We're not sure yet, but we're doing it a little differently so we can do a final thoughts on WandaVision the immediate following week. So we're actually like in time and not 2 weeks late. So we'll do different episode in 2 weeks. Then the week following that, WandaVision. 2 weeks after that, we'll do Snyder Cut. And that's what we're doing. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. That would be really helpful and helps us out a lot. We are also now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. All of those are linked in the description show notes. Feel free to subscribe to those if you would like. And write and leave a review. That helps us out a ton too, apparently in some way. I don't know how, but it does. And what else? I think that's it.
Well, thank you all so much. Seriously, if you made it to this point in the podcast, we really appreciate it. Hopefully you're as big of entertainment and Star Wars nerds as we are. Like, we love talking about Star Wars. We'll talk about it all day long if we could.
Yeah, we meant to make a shorter episode, but we didn't. So But
Yeah, seriously.
you can also I think it'd be cool to do audience questions at some point, presuming we have an audience. So if you want to reach us, you can email us at playpauserewindpod@gmail.com. Or on Twitter, do hashtag playpauserewindpod, and I'll search Twitter for those before the episodes. Maybe if you email us, just put in the subject line like question and then type what your question is, just so we can filter and see it. But yeah, I think that'll us, unless you got anything else.
No, I think you got it summarized pretty well. Yeah, thank you all so much for listening and making it this far. We really appreciate it, and you know, we're going to keep talking about or trying to dissect, interesting topics, from the Snyder Cut and WandaVision to, other forms of entertainment. So hopefully you guys just keep sticking with us and, seeing what we have to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah. Well, thank you all very much. We will see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.